Let's take you back just a little bit in this conversation, because I want to make sure, first of all, everybody's up to speed on who we're talking to and what she's doing. Nicole and I found each other probably 3 years ago or so. I can't remember exactly, but
it was a few years ago when the first book came out.
When the first book came out, Spirit of Sweetgrass. Spirit of Sweetgrass is still out there. It's something I encourage you to try and get into Nicole's novels. I will tell you, I don't think it matters where you start with her work. You could start on the current one coming out here now, and that is in the bookstores here locally in Charleston. But we'll talk to you about that in a minute. But I think anywhere you dive in, you're going to find you're going to fall in love with the characters and the style and the unveiling of Low Country culture, and a great relationship weaving that Nicole does in her writing. Very warm, very engaging, kind of puts you into the scenario with all the characters. You can buy in very easily. So start anywhere you want. But let's go back to Spirit of Sweetgrass, and I'm sure you've had other novels out there in the closets and drawers someplace, but that's the one that went out and became marketable. And how did the growth happen from there? How did that all get started with you?
Well, my first novel happened very quickly, and it was sort of a God thing. So it sort of wrote itself. The character showed up in full form, and she was easy to write. And it was an amazing experience writing that book. The agent after that came very, very quickly. And then it almost sold. Then it didn't sell, and it sat for a good while. And towards the end of the year, we ended up selling that book in a 2-book deal to Integrity Publishers. So I out of the gate, I hadn't really studied fiction. I hadn't read a whole lot. I really just woke up one morning with a story to tell. And I think a lot of us are that way. And I was pregnant at the time and just had enough courage and hormones, I suppose. I
was going to say, the hormones can work to your advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah, well, hormones in pregnancy, they can work to your advantage. I worried a little bit that I would have to be pregnant in order to write a book, but thankfully that has not been the case.
No.
That was my first 2-book deal. As soon as I turned, my second book was Trouble the Water, and as soon as that book was turned into my publisher, they turned around and offered me another 4-book deal. My publisher had been bought, so I'm with Thomas Nelson, and they have been bringing out my novels. So I have 4 novels out there, another one that just hit the shelves, and I'm just really thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be meeting the people that I get to meet. Had I never ventured to write that first novel, Rick, you and I may not have met.
True, and that's almost positively true, and I cherish that connection we have. Great friendship develops as well. So there's these kinds of things. The arts do, like music, like good music, like any kind of art demonstration and creative. They are like the feelers that go out and grab people and pull people together. It's a wonderful thing.
You're absolutely right. It is the arts are sort of the heart of our country. And so, yeah, I'm gonna plug arts and schools and all of that. I think that the arts and culture and music and visual arts and dance and all those things, that's sort of how you keep the heartbeat of the country going.
Nicole Seitz is from South Carolina, a little town just north of Hilton Head.
Between Hilton Head and, say, Myrtle Beach.
You really did grow up though in that area. Is that true?
I did. I grew up on Hilton Head Island. So
when I talk about you coming to your Low Country writing, honestly, it's the truth. You really have lived the culture.
It's absolutely the truth. My first couple of books, The Spirit of Sweetgrass and Trouble the Water, dealt with Gullah culture, and I grew up, on a little sea island, so I had Gullah teachers, and I had, we have this amazing. We've got sweetgrass baskets up and down the road here in Mount Pleasant, where I am, and we have the food and the music, and it's just, if you've never been down here, I highly recommend it. But people are drawn to this area who have visited, and if you pick up a good book that brings the Low Country to life, it's kind of like being there.
And I think that's why a lot of readers actually do gravitate to writers like you. Once they find out they enjoy that style and that culture, they gravitate to the writers who deliver it well, and you've fallen into that. In fact, Pat Conroy said you have, so I rest my case.
If Pat Conroy says it, it must be true.
Really and truly, there's a guy that is, you never found a sentence of Pat Conroy that you couldn't digest it in a wonderful way without any antacids,
I have to say, say something for him. He is a legend down here, a literary legend, but I have to say he goes above and beyond to help new authors and to help existing authors out there. I don't know that people really understand what the man is like behind the scenes. I don't know him that well, but from what I have seen of him, we had an event in Texas, and he was there recently, and he did it again last year. Every time an author would get up and do their talk and then go sit down and start selling books, Pat Conroy would come by. He would buy our book, go wait in line just like everybody else to have us sign it. That's how he encourages us, and what an amazing legacy to leave.
That's incredible. You know, and it is kind of the feeling I have about him, but I think, though, if you didn't read a lot about Pat Conroy, you certainly wouldn't know that that's where he would go with his...
No, you wouldn't know that. But that is, I think that is why maybe Southern authors kind of take care of one another. Mm-hmm. There is a culture down here of not necessarily competition, but you know, everybody supporting one another.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you the truth. I've read an awful lot in my life, but not certainly not everything. And Pat Conroy was not part of my reading list until I met you.
Oh, how wonderful.
And now I've read everything out there and tried to go back and find that first book, which I haven't.
It was the Boo?
Yeah, the Boo. And you know, read all about Boo, but I wanted to get that first one as well because it's now that you've got all of his books, you want to make sure you haven't missed anything.
I hear you. Well, so everybody should get all of my books too. Is that where we're going?
That's the babies. I mean, you've got 5 wonderful babies there, and I wonder, because that was my next question is, it's not fair really to ask this, but I'm going to anyway, just for the sake of a listener who might want to know, who's your favorite baby?
My favorite baby is always the one I'm working on next.
Oh, that's a cop-out.
It's not a cop-out. You know, it's like you have children. They're all different. Would you say you have a favorite?
That's why I said it was an unfair question.
It is an unfair question.
But is there one that you enjoyed working on more than another, that exposed something to you that was absolutely new and vital and interesting?
Honestly, Rick, every single one has, and I'll tell you why. The first one, The Spirit of Sweetgrass, just opened me up to character and to writing a novel. Never knew I could, and it stretched me to the point where I had to totally depend. You know, I keep my eyes to the sky and depend on God for it. The next one that I wrote, Trouble the Water, that one is when I mined my deep feelings regarding my aunt and her passing away, and I walked through. It's a book about healing, and so honestly, that book brought me to the point of healing when I had been grieving someone that I had lost. The third book, 100 Years of Happiness, that book was for my stepfather, and in this one, it was inspired by him. He's a Vietnam veteran, and I took such I challenged myself to become a veteran as a character in this book, to become his character. That was challenging. There was a fable-like quality. There was actually a fish character in that book. So every time I am stretching myself, I tell myself that if it gets easy, then I'm probably not writing what I should be writing. Saving Cicadas, you know, that was my last book that came out. That one was, it seems like a very simple book with a great twist and zinger of an ending, and that one was about very controversial topics, and it was about a single woman who's having a child and the choices that she is looking at making. That one was very, very frightening to put out because sometimes it's you know, people have strong opinions one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And so this one, my most recent book, The Inheritance of Beauty, it was written as inspired by a beautiful, I'm staring at right now, there's a beautiful photograph that I have of my grandmother that was taken of her in Charlotte at a municipal swimming pool, I believe in 1937, and it showed up on the front page of the Charlotte News as the Candid Cameraman's offering. Mm-hmm. And they put it up there, and everybody had a fit. Who was this beautiful woman? They asked her to come in. If you'll come in and tell us who you are, we'll make you a photograph. So they did. And then there were articles written about her and about what a lovely spirit, what a lovely person she was, humble person when she came in. And that photograph also made it up to the World's Fair in 1939 in New York City. And so this was, that billboard-sized photograph of her was never found. And I know I've got letters showing that she had tried to find it. So it was this photograph and this idea of a photograph going up to the World's Fair, and who might be whose eyes might have fallen upon my grandmother's beauty, who might have been inspired by her or touched by her, even though she stayed in Charlotte and she raised a family and she never went off and did those big things, yet her beauty lived on, and her beauty surpassed.
And moved on, yeah.
Moved on, and so that was what inspired this book. So, and then I launched off into a great amount of fiction, but I did honor her photograph and her memory, and so which one is my favorite? I don't know. After what all I've told you, I can't tell you which one is my favorite, except the one that I'm writing now. I'm under deadline, and it is so confounding, and writing is so hard at this point, and you're just, can I do this? Can I possibly do this? So I'm always most interested in the one that I'm writing.
All right, that's integrity on your part, and I appreciate the way you explained all those things, and I hope that it inspires somebody listening right now to start into one of these novels of Nicole's, and then you'll find yourself wanting to catch up with all of them. But they all have their own characters, so it won't matter where you start. I took The Inheritance of Beauty, thanks to you sending that to me as an advance copy, because I went into it on a Friday night late and finished it Saturday night late.
Wow.
And it is an easy read, because the way you write, you flow. I love authors who write in a way that is so conversational that the words fly through your brain instead of stumbling you up and having to reread sentences to get the full impact. You really give the good descriptive prose, but likewise it flows in a way that's common to my brain. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it does to me.
No, that makes perfect sense. You know why? It's my characters are speaking. And, George, the book is about George and Magnolia, this elderly couple that have been married for 70 years. Well, how would George speak? He wouldn't speak flowery or have words to stumble over. It is very conversational because you're getting it right from his mouth, and it's so much fun to write that way. So thank you for picking up on that.
Oh, yeah, well, I've read enough of your stuff to realize how you talk. You talk the way you email. I love that, the way you write your books the way you email.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much, I mean, not quite, but
maybe with a better editor and spell check. But
yeah.
I wanted to tell you, too, this latest book, Inheritance of Beauty, I went out to Texas. I stayed with a bed and breakfast, wonderful place out there called the Steamboat Inn, if you ever get a chance, in Jefferson. And the woman who owned the place, she had read my book, The Inheritance of Beauty, and she kind of told me with tears in her eyes she loved the book. And when she finished the book, she got on the phone and she called her mother and some people in her life that maybe she hadn't talked to in a long time, and she just told them how much she cared about them. It's one of those books, I think, that you can read it whether you're a teenager or whether you're a 99-year-old. You can read this book and get something out of it and really care. It kind of brings to life your own feelings for the people you love, and I don't think there's a greater compliment that she could have given me.
No,
so this is a great book for your sweetheart too.
Yeah, well, and I might also add, this is just my opinion, but it's not what I would call chick lit, and you don't have to be afraid of this, guys listening to us right now and saying, well, it sounds like that's something for my wife. It's not. I've enjoyed these books completely, and all for different reasons. But Nicole, it gives you a multifaceted look at interrelationship of characters, and not all woman to women. I enjoyed it so much, and I finished feeling so proud of you for the dedication, the commitment, for your sense of excitement for everything that you do. That shows in your writing, and it shows in the interviews you've done. I've gone back and looked at some of the things you have posted online or YouTube has of you, and even reading from your books. In fact, I had a fellow here look at one of your recent YouTube panel discussion on one of your, and you read from one of your books, and he said, wow, the way she reads with full expression of the characters just is so inviting. You should be also doing audio work if you're not doing it, because you express your characters so beautifully.